But yeah, that one, It Will Be You, that closes the album, and it's such a nice way of closing it, you know. It it rounds the album off, you know. Because again, that can be. I didn't, when you think about it, that can be quite a difficult challenge. That, not just selecting songs, but putting them in a particular order that will flow nicely. And that could very well be the most difficult, like the opening track and the closing track. I mean, it sounds like a bit of an obvious thing to say, but because it's your start and your end. Because if you want if you're trying to get the album to work as a whole, you need to make sure everything flows. But yeah, it must be quite a challenging track, a challenging task to pick the final track of an album. But great choice nonetheless. So after 1993, we came to 1994, and we got an album from Paul Young called Reflections. Now, this is one of the few times where I didn't like what he did. I haven't bought that album. I didn't like it because I heard some stuff from it, but it just fell flat for me. However, I did buy on CD a particular single from the Reflections album, which jumped out at me. That's How Heartaches Are Made. I thought that was the highlight of that album. So I thought, I'm not going to get the full thing because I wouldn't, but I'll get this. It's a 4-track single, of course, A side and 3 tracks on the B side. That's how it would presumably work on the album. So obviously you got your A side. Or should I say that's how it would work on vinyl, not album. You've got your A side, That's How Heartaches Are Made, and on the B side there is the title track of the Reflections album, Reflections. There's also a cover of the Aretha Franklin song, Don't Let Me Lose This Dream. That's a pretty fun song. That's a pretty easy listen, yeah. And also there is the remix of That's How Heartaches Are Made, and that's a pretty fun. It's a good remix. That's pretty. I often stick that one on as opposed to the original version of That's How Heartaches Are Made. Like I say, I'm glad I got this single. I like this. But I wouldn't have the album wasn't worth getting in my view. I think Reflections was the lowest, the weakest of Paul Young's discography. But in fairness, because he put so much time and effort into The Crossing, that was his masterpiece. And when you think Reflections followed a year later, sorry, I should say, I think The Crossing was Paul's final album with CBS, and then they let him go because they said, they didn't really like what Paul Young was doing, because obviously he's doing so many different things. They weren't sure if he was a bankable artist anymore, and that's fair enough. They've got to make the business decisions, but The Crossing, it's got a huge fan base, and it did reasonably well. The album wasn't in the top 10. I think it got number 27 in the UK chart, so not the biggest of hits, but still did pretty respectably. But obviously CBS, they're one hits, they don't. And Paul Young's getting older as well, But I think Reflections, and of course this single was with I'm not sure which record label this was. Vision Records. So yeah, I haven't got that much to say about Reflections, but of course this That's How Heartaches Are Made was a good track from it. Again, good effort from Paul Young. So that was 94, and then of course 97 was his self-titled album, basically Paul Young the album, and that's a really lovely one. Yeah, again, Paul Young just doing his own thing, doing something completely different. You know, it's been pointed out, got a very like country style to it, but I thought it still worked. I still enjoyed it. I mean, there were tracks on the album that I didn't like. You know, I just skipped over them, but it was pretty minor. I liked the majority of the stuff on the album, but there was some stuff that didn't. But yeah, a much better album than Reflections. And again, got a lot of his own stuff on it. Like, obviously, they're the two. I think they were the two singles from that one, from the '97 album, Ball and Chain and I Wish You Love. And he wrote both of those, and they are fabulous singles. Yeah, I've got a lot of love for those two songs. But then again, in true Paul Young fashion, there's a lot of gems on the when it comes to the album tracks. Like you've got to talk. Well, that's got a lot of love from fans. Tulla Rosa, and that is a genuinely nice one. That one. Also, I very much like Say Goodbye. That's such a easy listen track. It's such a smooth track. Again, that's one you can listen to. You know, you don't have to be in a particular. It's a really nice chill out song. That one, very, you know. Also, there is in a Dream Gone By. That one is a lot of fun. Yeah, really nice one as well. It's got a real Mexican feel to it. There's a Mexican Spanish feel to it. Yeah, a really nice one. Of course, but when you listen to it, you can tell Paul Young had a lot of. He was just doing what he loved when he did this one. And do you know what? This one, he had a great look for this one, didn't he? The long hair and the beard. He looked great. Yeah, and also I thought he looked lovely when he did the Other Voices album. I think he looked his sexiest when he did The Secret of Association back in '85 with that gorgeous mullet with this, you know, that gorgeous mane that he had. And of course you know, the tight Han Solo pants, and of course the leather boots, and when he did I'm Gonna Take Playhouse Down, that black top he wore which had the midriff, yeah, that went down well. But yeah, he looked really nice in this one, you know, like he was getting older, but he still looked great. Yeah, so, and that look went well with that album. Also, he started sporting the cowboy hat, doing a Shawn Michaels, and also the cowboy boots as well. But yeah, do you know what? That's another album that's grown on me. Yeah. I was just think, am I missing any other tracks? Like I say Goodbye. Oh yes, You'd Better Run Away. Originally, when I first listened to that album, that was a track I pretty much glossed over. But again, one of his own tracks. But when I went back to it, that's a great one. It's not the longest one in the world, because you guys know Paul Young specialised in doing long songs. Like, I think his average was 4 minutes 20 seconds. That was his average. But he did like, if you look at Soldiers Things, that one was 6.5 minutes. Yeah. And he was no stranger to a 5-minute track. Wonderland was 5 minutes. But yeah, he had the occasional shot. Like Love of the Common People, I think that was 3:45. Oh no, no, it might be. Sorry guys. Yeah, that and Softly Whispering I Love You are on 3:45. Oh Girl was about 3.5 minutes. All Women was about 3:45. Again, you know, like they're like songs that are on the shorter side. This Means Anything was quite a short one as well. But yeah, this one as well, You Better Run Away. It's shorter than 4 minutes. That one. Yeah, that was a real highlight for me. The You Better Run Away. Yeah. But yeah, again, another really nice album, and I thought it was a nice way to finish off his solo career, you know, because like I say, he's done stuff with Los Pacaminos, you know, studio stuff. But I think that was one of his last, if not his last, solo studio album as a solo artist. And I'm so glad he made this one, because it would have been such a shame if he went out on the Reflections, which was such a flat album. But this one was, you know, this one was a great way to finish it. And we've got to talk about his decline in voice, his decline in vocal abilities, because obviously at his peak he was fantastic. But yeah, in like The Crossing, in The Crossing, when he did That's How Heartaches Are Made, in the 97 album as well, you know, you can tell his voice was starting to decline. It still sounded good, but you could tell, you know. And I think by the time the 2000s came around, it had gone completely. Because I remember Mum telling me he had to have an operation, and of course that was the final nail in the coffin, so to speak. But such a shame, because, you know, it'd be nice if he was still able to do new stuff and if he still sounded good. But I'll say objectively, Paul Young's voice is gone now. You know, he's lost it. But hey, he's found a new niche for himself doing these, you know, wrote a cookery book on my travels, and from what I've seen, he's a pretty good cook. So he's got that going for him. And of course, his material still sells. The fact that they released that one last year, the Remixes and Rarities compilation, speaks for itself. And that was a really good album. And of course, that's that one still sells. The 2-disc set, Wherever I'll Aim, I Had the Best of Paul Young. That's a really popular. You know, you can go down to HMV, they have it in there. Yeah, so his material still sells, but you know, when you think about it, Paul Young accomplished so much, you know, during his time, and he did so much material, so many different things, that it's fine that his voice gave out on him. He didn't need to do any more. He'd done it all, and he'd done it all very, very well. You know, and obviously he's still got a large fan base even now. Still popular, you know. Still appears on TV. I think short, you know, it wasn't that long ago he was on. Saturday or Sunday Kitchen. But yeah, he's a brilliant guy as well, you know. I'm not going to go into the personal stuff, but you know, things he's done in his personal life are pretty amazing. You know, if you guys that are fans of Paul Young, you don't need me to go into that, you know. Yeah, an all-round amazing guy, and obviously one of the guys who back in the day genuinely had that spark of talent. And like I say, I'm glad I found him. He's my guy. You know, there's no, you know, he's my favourite. He always will be. I just love his material. And obviously a lot of other people do too, and rightly so. So that brings this Paul Young saga of videos to a close. Thanks for sticking with me. Thanks for watching, and I hope I haven't missed anything out. And you know, I'm sure a lot of you guys know just as well as I do, if not better, you know, stuff about Paul Young. But yeah, I hope you, you know, fans of his have enjoyed it and have agree with the points that I've made. And I hope if you haven't, if you haven't really heard of Paul Young, sorry, we got there eventually. If you haven't really heard of Paul Young, I hope this has again sparked your interest. You know, yeah, go and check Two My Memories out. You'll enjoy it. The music videos on YouTube. But yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. And I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.